folks, in this episode I'm going to show you how to make this audio visualizer in Blender. This uses a combination of geometry nodes, the shader editor and the array modifier to achieve this effect. I'll just give you a quick concept overview. So this is the Blender scene. Essentially it's a plane with an array modifier. We then use a Voronoi texture to drive the alpha on a principal BSDF. We then drive the animation with the audio data. We capture the audio data in geometry nodes over here. This is for low frequency, and this is for high frequencies. We then call those frequencies up with an attribute node, and that drives the color change. And we use the low frequencies over here to drive the W factor of the Voronoi texture. So without further ado, let's get to it. Open up Blender. I'm going to hit A to select all the objects in the scene. I'll then hit delete. I'll hit Shift A. I'll go mesh, and I'll choose plane. Tab into edit mode. Hit S4 and then hit enter, and that will scale it up by 4. I'll then tab out of edit mode. In my shader editor, I'm going to select the default material. If you haven't got one, click new. Just as a note, we're going to be using the Node Wrangler for this tutorial. Currently, I've got my render engine set to Eevee, and I've also enabled ray tracing over here. I'm going to go to my materials tab over here. I'm going to scroll down, navigate to settings, and just ensure that you've got transparent shadows. We'll enable ray trace transmission as well. I'll scroll back up. I'm going to go to my render tab over here, and I'm going to set this to cycles. I'll select my modifier tab over here. I'm going to click add modifier. We go generate, and we'll choose array. I'm going to change the offset method to offset. I'll then set the X translation to 0 and the Z translation to 0.25. I'll also increase the count to 16. To ensure the transparency works in cycles, I'm going to go to my renders tab over here. I'm going to scroll down. Under light paths, I'm going to increase the transparency to 32. I'm going to toggle on material preview. I guess the first logical step is to add the Voronoi texture, because that's what's going to be driving the alpha. So I hit Shift A, we'll go texture, and we'll choose Voronoi texture, and I'll pop that there. I'll change it from 3D to 4D. I'll change it from Euclidean to Chevy Chev. And with the Voronoi texture selected and the Node Wrangler enabled, I'm going to hit Ctrl T, and that will add a texture coordinate node and a mapping node. I'll then swap the coordinates from generated to object. I'll then connect the color socket to the alpha socket of the principal BSDF. I'll hit Shift A, we'll go color, and we'll choose color ramp, and we'll pop that in between there. I'll change the interpolation of the color ramp from linear to constant. I'll then drag this white flag across to around about, maybe I'll set it to 0.725. On the Voronoi texture, I'm going to set the scale to 0.5, and I'm going to set the detail to 1. So now in the 3D viewport, you can see that we're already getting this cool effect here. I want to add a bit more detail to this, so I'm going to take this color ramp, I'm going to hit Ctrl Shift D, and that will duplicate the node whilst maintaining the connection to the previous node, and I'll pop that down there. I'll then connect the distance socket from the Voronoi texture into the factor of this color ramp. I'll hit Shift A, I'm going to go displacement, and we'll choose bump, and I'll pop that there. I'll then connect the color socket from the color ramp into the height socket of the bump node. I'm going to set the distance to 1. I'll then connect the normal socket from the bump node into the normal socket of the principal BSDF. On the color ramp, I'm going to change the interpolation type from constant to ease. I'll then click this drop down menu here and select flip color ramp. With the white flag selected, I'm going to change the position to 0.75. I'll then drag this black flag all the way across over to round about here. So you can kind of see what's happening up here with this bump. So I'm going to bring it to round about there. In fact, maybe I'll set it to 0.8. And that just gives us an extra level of detail. It's time to add some color to this. Hit Shift A, go texture, and we'll choose gradient texture, and we'll pop that there. With the gradient texture selected, I'm going to hit Ctrl T, and that will add a texture coordinate node and a mapping node. I'll just hit G and bring these up to around about there. I'll then connect the factor from the gradient texture into the base color of the principal BSDF. Now, as you can see, this black and white gradient texture mask is pointing the wrong direction, so we want it to point on the Z axis. So on this mapping node over here, I'm going to change the Y rotation to 90. I'll then hit Shift A, we'll go color, and we'll choose color ramp, and we'll pop that in between there. For this first flag, I'm going to set this to a light blue, maybe something around there. I'll then click the plus button, and that will add a new flag. I'll then change the colour of this flag to maybe a cherry red. I'll then select the black flag, and I'm going to change the colour to an orange. We can use the flags on the color ramp to adjust the gradient, but instead of doing that, I'm going to go to this mapping node. We can then adjust the scale on the Z coordinates until we've got a favourable result. So I'm going to go with something around there. I'm going to set this to 0.4, in fact maybe 0.5. And for the color ramp, maybe I'll change the interpolation type from linear to ease. we're going to want to be able to animate the colour using audio. So to future-proof this, I'm going to hit Shift A, we'll go colour, and we'll choose hue saturation value, and we'll pop that in between the colour ramp and the principal BSDF. And now we're able to drive this hue factor using the audio. This is the material, almost complete. I'll just turn the roughness all the way up to 1. The only thing left to do is bring the audio into Blender. We'll then capture that audio data using geometry nodes, which we can then bring back into the shader editor to drive this W factor on the Voronoi texture and to drive these hue values over here. I'll take my cursor to the top left of the shader editor until I see a crosshair. I'll left click and drag across and open up a new window. I'll then change this from the shader editor to geometry node editor. I'll navigate to my modifiers tab over here. I'll then click add modifier and I'll select geometry nodes. On the geometry node modifier, I'm going to click new and I'll rename this to level up. I'll then drag the geometry node modifier above the array modifier. In my outliner, I'm going to rename this plane to stay sharp. I'll hide that object from the 3D viewport. I'll then hit Shift A, I'll go empty and I'll choose sphere. I'll then hit Shift D to duplicate and I'll escape it back in its original location. For this first empty object, I'm going to rename this to LF for low frequency, and for the second empty object, I'm going to rename this to HF for high frequency. On my timeline, I'm going to ensure that I'm on frame 1, and with my high frequency object selected, I'm going to add a keyframe on the Z location transform set to 0. I'll also do the same for the low frequency object. And just as a note, I've actually got my frame rate set to 30 frames per second. Yours will be set to 24 by default, and this is just so I get a smoother animation. I'll navigate back to my object data tab over here. I'll then change my geometry nodes window from geometry nodes to the graph editor, and with the low frequency empty object selected, I'll navigate to my graph editor and expand the LF action. I'll expand the object transform and I'll select the Z location keyframe. We'll then select channel and we'll choose sound to samples. I'm going to be using my own audio track for this, Scuffle Breakapart 160 BPM. I'll leave a link to the sample in the comments where you can download it for free from my Patreon. Here it is, Scuffle Breakapart 160 BPM. And because we've got the low frequency empty object selected, I want to filter out all the low frequencies. So the frequency range I want to use for this will be between 20 and 100 Hz. So on this filter, for the lowest frequency, I'm going to type in 20. And for the highest frequency, I'm going to type in 100. I'll then enable accumulate. We'll then click sound to samples. As you can see, in the graph editor, anytime audio is played between 20 and 100 Hz, it triggers a notch in this graph editor, and that's what's going to drive our W factor. I'll then navigate to the outliner and I'll select the high frequency empty object. Again, I'll navigate to the graph editor and expand HF action. I'll also expand the object transform and select the Z location keyframe. We'll then go to channel and we'll select sound to samples. Navigate and select your audio track. Mine is Scuffle Breakapart 160 BPM. The frequency range I want to capture for this empty object will be between 500 Hz and 4000 Hz. So in the frequency filter, for the lowest frequency, I'm going to type in 500, and for the highest frequency, I'm going to type in 4000. Again, I want accumulate on. I'll then click sound to samples. This frequency range should capture snares, rim shots, mid-range cymbals, including hi-hats. Now, if I hit play, you should see that the empty objects are moving in time with the music. We can't hear the audio in Blender yet, so let's do that now. So I'm just going to skip back to frame 1. I'll then change this window from the graph editor to the video sequencer. I'm going to click this button to the left of the new button, and I'll enable scene. In the video sequencer, I'm going to hit Shift A, we go sound, navigate and select your audio track, and then click add sound strip. We'll then drag that sound strip to the beginning on channel 1. I'm just going to ensure that this is on frame 1. You can see on your sound strip how long the sample is, so mine's 720 frames long. For this tutorial, I don't want my animation to be that long, so I'm going to set my end frame to 360. And that should be half of the length of the audio track. I'll then change this window from the video sequencer back to the geometry node editor. I'll navigate back to my outliner and I'm going to re-enable the geometry nodes visualizer. I'll then select that object. In the geometry nodes window, I'm going to hit Shift A and search for store, and we'll choose store named attribute and we'll pop that in between there. I'll then hit Shift D to duplicate and I'll pop that in between there. Maybe I'll just increase my geometry node window. I'll then hit Shift A and we'll search for set and we'll choose set material and I'll pop that in between there. I'll then connect the material socket into the bottom socket of the group input, and the reason I've done that is so if we go to our modifiers tab over here, we can now change the material on the fly. So in the material box on the geometry node modifier, I'm going to click in there and we'll select that material. I'll then navigate to my outliner, and I'm going to drag the low frequency empty object into the geometry node window. I'll also do the same for the high frequency empty object. Hit Shift A and search for separate XYZ, and we'll pop that there. I'll then connect the location socket from the object info into the vector of the separate XYZ, and now we have access to that Z location data. We can then plug that into the value socket of the store named attribute. We now need to give that attribute a name, and it only makes sense to call it LF for low frequency, and that matches the naming convention for the low frequency empty object over here. Next up, we'll take this object info. I'm going to take the separate XYZ, I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate, and I'll pop this over here. I'll then connect the location socket from the object info into the vector socket of the separate XYZ. I'll then connect the Z socket from the separate XYZ into the value socket of the store named attribute. We now need to give that attribute a name, so it only makes sense to name it HF for high frequency, and that matches the naming convention for the high frequency empty object. So that's it for the geometry nodes. We can now call those attributes up in the shader editor. So I'll just increase my shader editor. So first off, I want to use the low frequency to drive this W factor. So in my shader editor, I'm going to hit Shift A and search for attribute, and I'll pop that there. And to call that attribute up in here, I'm going to type in LF for low frequency. The name that you put in this box here has to match identically to the name that you put in your store named attribute for it to work. This is case sensitive, so just bear that in mind. And now I can take the factor from this attribute and plug it directly into the W factor of the Voronoi texture. Eevee doesn't handle real-time transparency that well, so if I was to hit play now, the animation would lag quite a bit. So just as a temporary measure, I'm going to mute the array modifier. I'll then plug this color ramp directly into the surface socket of the material output. And now if I hit play, we should be able to view this in real time. Although the audio is triggering the W factor to animate, I want this to move a bit more organically, so I want a continuous motion, and I also want the benefit of the audio triggering the animation. So to do that, I'm going to add a driver in the mix. So I'll hit Shift A and we'll search for value, and we'll add a value node there. I'll then connect this value node directly into the W socket of the Voronoi texture. I'll then add a driver to this value. So in here, I'm going to type in hash frame, and essentially that just adds a value for every frame. So if I go to frame 2, it goes on to 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. If I were to hit play now, that would be way too fast, so we need to tone that down a little. So I'll hit Shift A, we go utilities, math, and we'll choose math, and we'll pop that in between there. I'm going to change it from add to divide, and I'll divide it by 250. And now if I hit play, you can see that we're getting this slow, subtle animation. So now we just need to combine that with the audio data. That's easy enough. So I'll take this divide node, I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate, and I'll pop that in between there. I'll then change it from divide to add. I'll then connect the factor from this attribute node into the bottom socket of the add node. I'll just shimmy these about. I'll skip back to frame 1, and if I hit play, you can see that we're getting the benefit of the audio trigger and the driver at the same time. Excellent. I'll now reconnect the principal BSDF into the surface socket of the material output. Next up, we want to drive this hue with the high frequencies. To do that, we'll hit Shift A, we'll go input and select attribute, and we'll pop that there. I'll then hit Shift A, we go utilities, choose math and select math, and we'll pop that there. I'll then change it from add to multiply, and in this attribute node, to call up the high frequency data, in the name, we're going to type in HF for high frequency. We'll then connect this factor to the top socket of the math node. I'll then connect the value socket from the math node into the hue socket of the hue saturation value node. We can then adjust the value on this math node, and that affects how much impact the audio has on the hue. So I'm going to set this value to 1. And now if I hit play, you can see that the hue is triggered by the mid to low high frequencies. So I'll just skip back to frame 1. I'm going to re-enable my array modifier. From the top looking down, we can see all the way through this mesh. So I want to add a ground plane. So I'll hit Shift A, I'm going to go mesh, and I'll choose plane. Tab into edit mode. I'm going to hit S for enter. I'll then tab out of edit mode. I'll just hit numpad 1 to go into front view. I hit G, Z, I'm going to hold down control and bring it down 2 units. In the shader editor, I'm going to click this button here and select that material. Maybe we should give this material a name. So I'm going to name this to Mat 1 for material 1. I'll then click this 4 button, and that will make this material independent from the original. And for this one, I'm going to rename this to Mat 2 for material 2. So this object's got material 1 and this object's got material 2. So for this object here, I'm going to go add modifier, we'll select geometry nodes, I'm going to click this button here and we'll select the level up geometry node system. And for the material, we're going to set this to material 2. For this material, we're not going to be using any alpha. So I'm going to take this color ramp here and I'm going to hit delete. Also, we're not going to be using this gradient mask. So I'm going to take this texture coordinate, this mapping node and this gradient texture. I'm going to hit delete. And instead of driving this color ramp with the gradient texture, we're going to drive it with the color socket from the Voronoi texture. Before we move on, it's a good idea to save your project. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to save my project as like and subscribe. Thanks folks, you absolute legends, and then click Save As. Now we can work on the 3D scene. We've done all the heavy lifting here. So in my 3D viewport, I'm going to hit Shift A, I'm going to go Light, and I'll choose Sun. Maybe I'll just hit G, Z, and I'm going to bring it up on the Z location to around about there. I'll go to my render tab over here. I'm going to ensure that I'm in cycles. You can use Eevee if you like. I'll then toggle on rendered preview, and with your sun lamp selected, I'm going to go to my light data tab down here, and I'm going to increase the strength to 5. Maybe I'll set the angle to 25, and that will give us softer shadows. I'll just hit numpad 7, numpad period. I'll then hit Shift A and I'll select camera. And while I'm in the top view, I'm going to hit Control Alt numpad 0. And that will align the camera to the 3D view. And with my camera selected, I'm going to go to my object data tab over here. I'm going to ensure that the X location is set to 0 and the Y location is set to 0. I'll then select my camera data tab down here. And I'm going to increase the focal length to, let's say, 70mm. From here, I'll go to my object data tab. And I'm going to decrease the Z value until everything is in frame. Maybe something around there. So now we just need to dial in the lighting. So I'm going to go to my world tab over here. And I'm going to decrease the strength to 0. I'll then select my sun lamp. I'm going to go to my object data tab over here. And I'm going to increase the X rotation to around about 24 degrees, maybe 25 degrees. And maybe I can rotate it on the Z rotation to 15 degrees. I'll navigate to my light data tab down here, and I'm going to decrease the strength to 2.5 just for now, because I'm going to add a new sun. So with that sun selected, I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate. I'll escape it back in its original location. I'll then navigate to the object data tab, and I'm going to set the X rotation to -25, and I'll set the Z rotation to 0. I'll then go to my light data tab over here, and I'll increase the angle to 45 degrees. I'll just skip to a random frame. Okay, I'd like a bit more transparency on this, so I'm going to select my geometry nodes object. I'll zoom in to the color ramp, which is connected to the alpha, and I'm just going to drag this white flag across until I've got a result that I'm happy with. So maybe I'm going to go with 0.745. After doing that, you may have to adjust the threshold for your bump on this color ramp. I'm going to select a random frame. Okay, I'm kind of happy with these results. One last thing, I'm going to go to my output tab over here, and I'm going to change the format to vertical. So I'm going to go for 1080 by 1920. On your output, select a file format of your choice. PNG set to RGB should be absolutely fine. Click this folder icon, choose the file location where you want to save your image sequence, and then click accept. I'll go to my render tab over here. For my noise threshold, I'm going to keep this set to 0.025, and I'm going to set the max samples to 256. I'll then toggle on material preview. I'm going to click this drop down, and I'll enable scene lights and scene world. And now if you hit Ctrl S to save the project, it will save your Blender file with this thumbnail. And then it's simply a case of hitting Ctrl F12, and that will render out your image sequence. You'd then take that image sequence and the audio into a video editor. I use DaVinci Resolve, just ensure that your frame rates match up, and then render it out as an MPEG 4 under H.264. If you found this episode useful, click this next tutorial. Stay sharp, have a great day, and level up.